Committee, TERC, then it went to the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, then it went to the Cabinet. So again, it's a moot point. You know, the topmost political leadership was involved in giving the go-ahead to the FTA. And to react to an earlier point which Professor Batra raised, you know, unfortunately, what she has been, raising, that foreign policy has to have a solid grounding in economics. Unfortunately, and I am not putting the blame on anybody, we have not had that. What we have been having is a head of state visiting, okay, go ahead and sign some MOU. Sign some, FTA, agreement. So, the thing is, the decision was taken at the highest political level to conclude the FTA. And it was told to the negotiators, you wait, you will get what you want in services. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm reminded that we have to go for a cup of coffee, unless some of you decide to skip the coffee. I mean, that's not fair on my part to say it. So, last word, maybe Nalin.
One quick point on a positive note.
Please.
I think we as industry, I represent industry, we are equally to be blamed. I remember every FTA, there was so much of consultation with industry, and I had the privilege to chair the Electronics and Software Export Council at that time. But unfortunately, industry responses only when they are under threat. And you keep on asking people, give suggestions, they don't come. But having said that, what I would say is, let's build on successes. Our friend from Philippines said one airport is being built by an Indian company there. Why can't we replicate success? Secondly, I can tell you from my own industry, ma'am, ITA was signed much before, and zero duty was put on electronics. So there was no protection for electronics. But over the years, we have realized that if I am in US, trying to sell to US customer, and I'm competing with China, I know some things I'm good at, some things I'm better than the Chinese, and some things the Chinese are better than me. So I think if we have to make full use of this agreement, we need to understand our strengths and match it with the opportunities.
Thank you.
Once there is a desire, we'll do that.
Thank you. The last word by Mr. Rajiv Kher.
Well, thank you. I think I don't want to hold back the audience from a hot cup of coffee. But just to respond to a couple of points, and Mohan and Jayant have answered many of the questions which Professor Batra had raised. But let me just touch upon a few things. First, this whole debate on FTAs and their performance, etc. But first of all, address the ASEAN-India FTA. I think the data is, I don't believe in, giving out data because it confuses the discussion. But the data is available. If you analyze the data, you would clearly see that if you minus the products where India imports because of compulsions, coal, edible oil, palm oil, you minus them, you will see that India definitely gained out of India-ASEAN FTA. Clearly, you have to just look at the statistics, it is there. 2, value chain. I, in my presentation, very clearly mentioned that we have not been able to get adequate benefit on that count. We should have utilized value chain, our presence on these value chains in a much better manner. But our presence on some of these value chains, though as a backstream performer, is very clear. You look at Toyota manufacturing, you look at other car makers, and there are automobile component manufacturers in India who are exporting to our Thailand, and thereafter the product is going out. So clearly you are there. Same is happening on textile. Look at, the problem is you are at the lower end of that value chain. For example, you are exporting cotton, you are exporting cotton fiber. Now that is where the challenge is to turn it around. To add greater value, to get greater return out of that product. And that is what the challenge is. And besides, of course, the fact that you want to be on many more value chains. So that is the second. The third, CLMV. CLMV, when I said CLMV, I didn't mean CLMV as a composite. There are CLMV countries, and Vietnam is the most distinctive country of CLMV group. And the whole idea of persuading and cajoling the textile sector to go and invest in Vietnam was essentially to climb onto the TPP. But the industry at that point in time, and I am very well aware because of the position I held at that time, that industry came and told me, we will not, industry was shying. Industry was not confident about its sustainability in Vietnam. And there are some reasons which I don't want to speak at this point. So clearly, when we are talking of CLMV, we are talking of different aspects in different countries of CLM. Textile sector, Vietnam. There were a whole lot of other things which we are looking at Myanmar. Whether that is worked out or not, that's something which can be debated. Raw shrimp export. I think this is a purely business case. If there is an easy value addition, easy packaging available in India, is there a case that there is a taxation policy here which is not allowing our shrimp producers to package? If that be so, then I think it calls for a discussion and maybe calls for a resolution at the government level. But if the industry, and I am confident about one thing, Indian industry has always been wanting to export. See, there is a trading mentality. The trading mentality is get some return out of your export and be happy. If a product goes to A country for some TBT or SPS reason, it can't go to A country, divert the consignment to B country and derive as much as you can out of it and forget about it. And please understand, this is what used to be of a large chunk of Indian industry. Of course, in the last 5 to 7 years, a lot of refinement has happened. But the fact is that we still have not been able to promote, and I think if somebody raises that question, I'll be very happy. We have not been able to promote Indian industry to adopt a mindset of sustainability of markets. That I will invest in ASEAN to the extent I can, but I want to sustain there for the next 30 years. This has not happened. And here, I would also blame the government. And we can discuss this at an appropriate time. Cold chains, Mohan, you asked me. Well, I've been asking that question for many years. Our agri exports, our processed food exports are suffering terribly because of the fact that we don't have logistics frameworks, logistics networks. And this is something which we have been talking to industry and the government, and I understand that there are programs for cold storages, construction, and it's been going on since the time when I used to be district magistrate, so it's about 30 years. So these programs have been going on, but they've not been working to the satisfaction of everyone. So clearly there are glitches, and that is exactly the point of this discussion, that if India-ASEAN strategy for integration, for a variety of reasons where trade and economy are not just the reasons, has to succeed, has to prosper, then a very focused attention where issues of investments do not come in the way. So if it is necessary that a 120-kilometer road has to be made, a 160-kilometer road has to be made, or a certain seaport has to be made, it has to be made. Get the resources from wherever you can. Borrow for that if you can. Because it's a long-term issue for us, and it is not just the trade and economic issue, it is a strategic issue. It brings in security and a whole lot of other things. So I think that is the broad tenor in which we have been talking about India-ASEAN relationship. Thank you.